Okay, I'm going to explain some of the problems for CED 4. We are solving formulas for a specific variable. This is called solving literal equations. I'm comparing the two problems you see right now. The one on the right, there is one step to solve for h. So we are trying to isolate h using inverse operations. Since h is being multiplied by b, I'm going to divide by b on both sides of the equal sign and find that h is equal to a divided by b. It's very similar to the problem on the left because we have multiplication with L plus W. So I'm going to look at that as all one factor, L plus W, is being multiplied by 2. So my first step is going to be to divide by 2.
If you are tag testing, you need to go immediately to the media center. If you are doing tag testing, go to the media center now.
When I divide by 2, I'm left with L plus W equals A divided by 2. I'm asked to solve for L, so my last step to get L by itself is to subtract W on both sides. So A divided by 2 minus W is equal to L. That is not the only option for solving that problem. A lot of people that I've noticed like to distribute first. So that would be 2L plus 2W. It's okay to distribute here because you're solving for L and distributing doesn't put L in multiple terms. So I'm left with A equals 2L plus 2W. I can now subtract 2W from both sides. A minus 2W equals 2L. I can now divide by 2 on both sides. When I divide a binomial by 2, everything gets divided by 2. So this is A divided by 2 minus 2W divided by 2 equals, the 2's cancel there, L. So I can still simplify. This is A divided by 2 minus, the 2's cancel, W equals L. So you can see that there are two ways to arrive at the same answer. Let's look at another example. A equals 1/2 H times B plus C. Let's solve for C. To me, it's much easier not to distribute when I'm solving for a variable that's inside the parentheses. Since I am multiplying everything on this side by 1/2, I can cancel out by dividing by 1/2. To divide by 1/2, dividing by 1/2, dividing both sides by 1/2. How do I divide by a fraction? I multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over 1. Multiplying by 2 cancels that out and gives me 2A. So the first thing I did was get rid of that fraction. Now I have 2A equals H times B plus C. Since B plus C is being multiplied by H, I can get B plus C by itself by dividing by H. Now I have B plus C equals 2A divided by H. To get C by itself, simply subtract B from both sides, so 2A divided by H minus B is equal to C. Now I have C by itself. I'm going to do another example of A equals 4 pi r squared. Solve for R. So here I have R is squared and multiplied by pi and 4. So to get R by itself, I'm going to divide, and I can divide by both 4 and pi at the same time. So that leaves me with r squared is equal to a divided by 4 pi. I do not have r by itself. I have r squared. So I need to use the inverse of squared, which is square root. Take the square root of both sides. The square root of r squared, what times itself is r squared? R is equal to the square root of a over 4 pi. And for now, we can just leave that in that form. One more example before we close. I am going to do a equals xy plus xz divided by 2. And let's solve for x. Well, the number divide by 2 is the first thing I would cancel here because it's easy to say let's multiply this by 2, multiply both sides by 2, 2 on top will cancel that 2 on the bottom. So I have 2a equals xy plus xz. Since both of the terms have the variable x, and I'm trying to solve for the variable x, I need to factor out, which is basically the reverse of the distributive property. So I'm going to factor out the x. X times what is xy? If I divide this by x, I'm left with y. X times y is xy. X times what is xz? X times z is xz. So what I've done is I've factored out a common factor of x. So x times y plus z in the parentheses is the same thing as xy plus xz. All of this is equal to 2a. Now, since I have x by itself being multiplied by all of this, I can divide by the sum of y and z on both sides. Now I'm left with x equals 2a divided by y plus z. Hope that helps with solving literal equations. Thank you.